Are there marketing tasks that need to be done for your company, but you just don't have the time or enough people to help? Do you hate managing social media? Are you curious about starting a podcast? This episode is hosted by the founder of GetLeverage.com, Nick Sonnenberg. Leverage is a premier marketing platform that pairs you with a team of experts for any big or small project that you want to outsource.
Hey guys, Nick Sonnenberg here, and on this week's episode, we're bringing you an exclusive call from my brand new mastermind group, Bullseye, that I'm running with my partner, Lee Brower. This week, we had Scott Cannon, the co-founder of the brand new agenda software, Navigator.com, talk with us about how he's helping business leaders run more effective meetings with his new platform. And this is the guy, they built Mailbox that was acquired by Dropbox years ago. Navigator is an AI-backed teamwork assistant. It gathers all necessary meeting information from participants, and then it publishes the meeting summaries automatically. It's awesome. We're using it at Leverage, my company, GetLeverage.com, and it's really a game changer. So I hope you enjoy the show, and check out Navigator.com at the end.
All right, so I was in Bali 2 weeks ago at the Running Remote conference and learned about a ton of tools. And one tool that kept coming up, and I don't know how you guys got known amongst people at this conference, but was Navigator, Navigator.com, which is a new agenda tool that's in beta, and it's built by the same people that built the Mailbox app back in 2013 that got acquired by Dropbox. And today's guest that's going to be discussing Navigator is Scott, the co-founder. Hi, Scott.
Nick, nice to connect with you.
Thanks for joining today. So Mailbox, if you guys don't know what that is, you guys had a viral video and a wait list that just went absolutely berserk. And honestly, it set a lot of trends in the market. You know, Gmail and Google didn't have snooze swiping. You guys really paved a new design methodology in terms of interactions that happen in mail clients. And I was a really big fan of what you guys did with Mailbox. You know, every mail application followed you guys after, and then you guys had a big exit with Dropbox acquiring you. Isn't that right?
That's right. Yeah, we joined the Dropbox team when it was maybe 250 people, and we got to play a part in scaling that company up over about 3 years while the core team was there.
Yeah. So I have a lot of respect for what you guys do. A lot of respect for your vision in terms of building collaboration tools that help teams be more efficient. And agenda tools, an agenda tool is something that you might not necessarily be walking around thinking, oh, I'm desperately looking for this tool. I mean, I'm one to look for it because I know how valuable having agendas can be to meetings. We have a policy, no meeting, no agenda, no meeting. But an agenda tool is so valuable for many reasons. One reason is it really helps you cut down a lot of the noise in companies in communication tools. So if you're using Slack or text or email, whatever you're using in companies, it really cuts down on a lot of the noise in whatever that communication tool is, because you can then say to people, hey, if it's not urgent and we have a weekly meeting, just add it to the agenda so you can achieve the whole productivity principle of batching. And it's a really good way of keeping people focused during the day without getting too much noise. So an agenda tool is just, for me, one of the core critical tools that you need in a company. And I've been playing around with Navigator, and I really like what you guys have built for many reasons. And I'm also really betting on you guys being the rock stars that you are to just continue building out functionality post beta to really make this the industry standard for agendas. So I wanted to share this call right now. We have the Bullseye Mastermind on the call because I wanted to share with them firsthand this new tool and have you do a demo. And if anyone has questions, they'll post questions and hopefully, we can get some good questions in there that you can answer. Does that sound good, Scott?
That sounds great. Yeah, looking forward to it.
So I'll shut up now and would love to hear from you. What is Navigator? And maybe if you could just show us, show everyone on the call, that would be awesome.
Cool. Let me share my screen and we can take a look here. So I'll just share the navigator.com website. You can all see that, I take it. So Navigator is a virtual robot assistant, teamwork assistant that helps busy leaders run more effective meetings. And we believe that the secret to great meetings isn't actually a secret at all. It's just a lot of work. And we wanted to democratize what the world's best companies, best leaders do in terms of running great meetings, make that available to anyone in the world who wants to try it. So it's easy to get started with Navigator. I'll say hello here, and I'll just kind of give you a demo of how the onboarding works. Navigator is this super fun robot that wants to get to know you. Put my name in here, and you can have a little conversation to learn about it. And it describes itself. It talks about how it helps guide people through effective processes for better meetings. And pretty quickly we can get into actually just getting started. So say we want to learn about the agenda. This is the best way to demonstrate the agenda. We started with one key principle, was that we want to make sure every meeting and the time that is spent is very intentional. And that starts with a clear goal for every topic. And as Nick was describing, it's important to take these discussions, often out of these kind of synchronous threads and put them in a mode like a meeting where you can be very clear on what you want to achieve. So we've picked 6 different types of goals that people seem to gravitate towards in a meeting. Do you want to make a decision? Do you want to discuss a problem? You want to brainstorm ideas? Just want to gather feedback on something? And that kind of helps people get aligned very quickly in meetings. And we can look at an example of an agenda here. Imagine a group meeting that runs every week on a recurring basis, and those colors from those goal types are shown here on the agenda topics. Just a list of topics. Hazel wants to review status on a new marketing campaign. Suman wants to brainstorm ideas on an office reconfiguration. And each of these topics, there's a pane below that offers a space to capture meeting notes, offers a space to have some conversation in advance of the meeting or after the meeting. It's a place to capture action items. All the basic hygiene that you might find in a good agenda product is right here. And at the end of the topic, you can make a decision. Is this addressed and we don't need to cover it anymore? Or is this something we want to revisit again next week? Maybe we didn't quite get the decision made, or we didn't finish the brainstorm, or we ran out of time. It's easy to mark those for next week's agenda. And Navigator's keeping track of all of that, and it'll put the next agenda right here for next week with those topics out there. These agendas are collaborative. Navigator works by reaching out to everyone ahead of the meeting to get their input, make sure that all the voices around the table are representative, making sure it's an inclusive conversation. And it also does a really good job of following up after the meeting to send summaries of the meeting notes, to follow up on action items, and make sure that nothing gets dropped in the cracks. That's a bit of an overview of the product. We've taken this conversational approach to UI for the product to make it really simple and really easy to work with, and try to create a sense of support from this service that's working on your behalf to create great agendas, and trying to position this less like yet another productivity tool and more like a service that's just always available to help you and can handle lots of conversations in parallel. That's the basic product. What else can I answer? What else can I tell people about the basics of how it works?
Well, I thought that the modules was an interesting feature that you guys have.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's set up a meeting, and I'll give you a tour of some of those modules. So let's set up a one-on-one meeting, and we integrate with Google and Microsoft calendars right now. That makes it really easy to follow any changes to the calendar invite. If you add people to the meeting, you remove people to the meeting, if the time changes, Navigator will stay in sync with all those updates and make sure it's always up to date. For sake of speed, I'll skip that process and just describe the meeting that we want to run with here. Cool. And I'll add Nick. What's your email address?
Nick@getleverage.com. Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so we got a one-on-one going, and Nick, you can be my manager. And we're just setting up the time and date for now in a manual way. Cool. And then let's customize this one-on-one. So we want to make sure that there's good relationships built between the two of us. So let's get a pulse on what we're focused on ahead of time. Would you like me to suggest conversation prompts for one-on-one? Sure. Let's do that. And then here's kind of the meeting dashboards. Let's do this and we'll get our agenda set up and I'll show you the modules. So the modules that I just customized with a couple questions are even more richly displayed here in the settings. So here are the 4 modules that we offer for a one-on-one. There's something called check-ins that is a topic on the agenda that's customized to capture updates ahead of the meeting on how people are doing. We do it with a really simple list of emojis that capture how someone's feeling, and then you can answer what's top of mind for you this week, and it helps people get a good sense of what they're focused on, builds a lot of empathy between the two parties. There's a module called Unblockers that's an easy way to surface things that me as Nick's report might be stuck on throughout the week, where Nick could really help me make a decision, could help me solve a problem that's facing me. So that's a really powerful module that people get a lot of value out of. Personal growth modules, one of the favorites from early usage of the product. Navigator will present a different topic every week, spread across a number of different categories that help us build a relationship, that help us improve team dynamics on our team, help me grow professionally. And you can see an example of that on this agenda here, where Navigator is proposing a topic for Nick to say, hey, where's Scott had the most impact over the past few months? And these kind of ongoing check-ins, ongoing feedback bits are really powerful to build strong relationships between managers and report. It also works for peers on a team who just want to work more closely together. And then this last module with follow-ups is a way to put a recurring topic on the agenda to surface any action items that are still open and drive discussion around those every week. So it's a great way to make sure things don't fall through the cracks, that they always get handled. So that's an overview of the modules for one-on-one meetings that we offer. There's a different set for team meetings that are customized for that scenario. And think of these as kind of power-ups on your meeting that help you get more out of your time together, in addition to the standard topics that are created here.
It's quite clever. I could see. I guess you guys are thinking about pricing, so I guess modules is a pretty obvious premium feature for a paid version.
That's right. I think we'd want to have some number of these free to try, and there's probably some that are more appropriate for a pro level package. In this beta period, we just want to make it available to anyone who wants to try it and learn what packaging makes sense as we scale.
So guys, right now, if you use Navigator, it's free because they're in beta. So for free, you can test all this out. Scott, we've had a couple questions come in. Do you see the questions? I'll read them off.
Yeah, once you read them off, and I'll try to get them here. Yeah.
So Lee Brower is asking, can you customize check-ins, and what influence do you have over prompt categories?
Yeah, it's a great question. On the check-ins, we've started simple, where it's just a simple "how are you feeling" and the set of emojis there. Over time, we'd want to allow people to ask specific questions if they have a go-to question that they always want to ask. We'll bring that to check-ins. In the team meeting, there's a module called Quick Updates, which is kind of like a mini stand-up. Navigator just checks in on what people are focused on that week. That question you can customize, and we see people having lots of different variants of that question for their team meeting. The second question was around the prompts for personal growth. Did I get that right?
What influence do you have over prompt categories?
Yeah, so you can turn on or off these subcategories right now. And then there's a question bank of curated questions that Navigator's developed, from our team. We're junkies over here around management best practices, and we've got a library full of great books and are constantly reading things. So we've sort of developed a set of thoughtfully curated questions in these different categories. and make those available just kind of on a recurring basis, on an ongoing basis in this thing. And you can tailor that by turning on or off these subcategories. Maybe you've been working together for 10 years and you don't need to strengthen your relationship anymore, and you might turn off that category. And maybe feedback's not a purpose of your meeting, you turn on or off that category. We started here with just a thoughtful set of defaults across all these modules. And over time, in response to feedback, we want to offer, more power level customization for those who want it, but always keep a really, really simple set available so anyone can sign up and just, get great management practices out of the gate with kind of the basic default package.
Donna has a question. Can you add screenshots or attachments to agenda items?
That's a great question. It's easy to put links in right now. So if you want to link to like a Google Doc or link to something got stored in your Dropbox, absolutely. Attachments support something that we've heard a lot of requests for, and it's on our roadmap to build that, to be able to directly add a file into one of the topics.
Do you have a public roadmap that you're sharing so people could check out kind of what you guys are thinking about?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's a bit on the website that sort of suggests some of the broader areas we want to go after. So for example, goal tracking is something we're really interested in. Imagine a module that's focused on OKRs or on team goals. So that's on the list. There's one around, we've heard a lot of requests for insights into best management practices, best teamwork processes, and can Navigator become more of an authority on offering great content around those. So we're exploring that. That's a pretty broad roadmap. We haven't published a more detailed one yet, partly because we're still sorting out what the highest leverage things we can do are. We just launched the public beta about 3 weeks ago, and we have some good ideas around what needs to come next, and we're building those right now. But we want to take time to really interact with a lot of users over the next couple of weeks and understand how the product is suiting people and what they want to hear most in our next set of releases.
I have a bunch more questions about roadmap and features, but I want to just switch gears for a second. You guys clearly have spent a lot of time thinking about best practices of how to run a meeting, and have probably studied books, literature, many companies saying, what are the most successful companies and teams doing in a meeting that's different in terms of utilizing an agenda. So kind of software aside, what are some best practices that you would recommend people follow, even if they just use, paper and pen as far as an agenda? What are some best practices that you found everyone should follow in a meeting?
Yeah. I'll share a couple things. And again, the secret here is not really a secret. It's just a lot of diligence and a lot of kind of hygiene. Before a meeting, it's critical that everyone come with a clear understanding of what the goals are and what the topics are that need attention. It sounds simple and trite, but it's actually hard to achieve that going into a meeting without a bit of work. And that means talking to everyone ahead of time to make sure that they're aligned on what the content actually needs to be. Pre-reads are something that we are big fans of, getting content out ahead so that people can start ruminating if it's a difficult decision that needs to be made, can start thinking about the different options and thinking about the different criteria, and coming in with some amount of context ahead of the meeting is just so important to make use of the time well, to get people's juices going. During a meeting, we think it's really important to get to clarity on each topic. It's so easy to talk for 10 minutes about something and not really understand what's been achieved. Did we get clarity on what that decision is going to be? Did we figure out what the next step's going to be and the next actions to go forward? So we tried to build a tool that affords that, but in absence of any specific product surface, just the hygiene of someone driving to clarity. Having another person take notes, is something that we find is very important and effective, so that those who weren't in the meeting can be can take advantage of those, and they can also be forwarded to broader audiences outside the meeting. So a separate note taker from the person who's actually facilitating the discussion and trying to tease out all the different opinions is important. And then follow-up's a big one after meetings. someone to make sure that all the action items stay top of mind, that progress happens between meetings, that if there's something that does get stuck somewhere, that gets unblocked. That's a really important part, to just make sure the meetings are the centerpiece of this ongoing recurring thread of activity around a project.
Are you familiar with EOS by any chance? Gino Wickman wrote a book called Traction.
I'm not familiar with it, no.
So it's a great book. You might like it. Basically, they have frameworks around how a business should run. So they have a concept called rocks, which are kind of quarterly goals, and then how do you back out monthly and weekly goals? And they have a concept called a scorecard, which should be things that you're measuring on a weekly basis that roll up towards achieving some quarterly rock. But one component to EOS is how you run a meeting, and they have a concept called a level 10 meeting, and they kind of give you some suggested framework of how to run a meeting. And I'll probably butcher this, but the overall theme of it is they have a bit of like a template where it's consider like a 90-minute meeting. They give you some suggested framework. So maybe 5 minutes is a segue at every meeting, or you kind of go around and you ask people, what did they do over the weekend? And then there'd be another part right after that, which would be headlines, which could be client headlines, team headlines, both. Then you would do kind of a scorecard overview. So I guess it matters which type of meeting, but let's imagine you're doing a meeting with an executive team. Then you would go into a scorecard where you would go over the weekly metrics. Then you'd go over a quarterly rock review. And then you get into a section that they call IDS, which stands for Identify, Discuss, Solve. So anything that is brought up in the first 20 or 30 minutes, and that if there's a metric that's not hit, and then you start going into why did we lose customers last week, and you start speaking for more than a couple of minutes, they then recommend basically capping any conversation in that intro to like a minute or two, and then dropping it down into the IDS section if it requires longer discussion. Likewise, if anything comes up during the course of the previous week, instead of bothering people in Slack, add it to the IDS section. And then they end every meeting with a conclusion where they suggest you rate the meeting 1 to 10. So you start, and it's not to really aggressively track or plot charts, but it's a way to just get a feedback loop to make sure that people are having better, more productive meetings. So just wanted to share that.
That's nice. Yeah. We think in terms of a spectrum of, how specific does Navigator want to be in terms of the process it prescribes, versus how general and how flexible do we want to make it for teams. So, on one end of the spectrum, on the very general end of the spectrum is like just a list of bullets, on a Word document or something. And that might be okay for some people, but we think that's too little process. There's too little intention behind that. There's not enough sense of goals. And then on the other end of the spectrum is something that's extremely bespoke for a very specific type of meeting, specific organization. We're trying to land somewhere in between, and provide an agenda that's pretty flexible, but still opinionated around the goals that each topic has. Our agendas are not intended to have 30, 40 items on them. We're intended to be, a small set of things that people can get through. And then with modules, allowing people to customize even more parts of that. Maybe people do want to have a quick update ahead of time to check on how everyone's doing. Maybe people do want to be talking in a one-on-one about personal growth topics. Maybe they don't. So modules are kind of next level of customization. And then over the months that follow this beta launch, we want to add even more module options and ways for people to, if they want to, achieve the type of process you just described, Nick. Hopefully, we provide a set of modules and other customization that can achieve that end of the spectrum.
So right now, do you have the functionality? If I wanted to start kind of every meeting, let's say with a segue, a headline, and a scorecard for not every meeting, but say certain meetings, I always want to start with those 3 things. Is there a way to have that default right now in Navigator for those meetings? Is
Yep.
that with the module?
There is, and we're going to make it better. So today we'd create 3 topics, and you'd probably pick a goal for them, review status on, quarterly goals or something. And then you'd have to remember to revisit that next week. So we saw that a little bit, if I'm still on the screen here, to revisit this topic next week. We want to build more advanced recurrence options where you could actually say, like, these 3 topics I want to be on every meeting. You're effectively creating a template for yourself in that sense. And you should expect to see that, in the months ahead in Navigator, for that recurrence option. But there is a way today to do it. It takes a little bit of work each week to remember to revisit them for the following week.
I love the functionality of mark as addressed and revisit. We just used it earlier today. Mondays are my days of calls. I have all my one-on-ones and team calls on a Monday. So we were going through, and the team so far has been really liking it. Question though, if you don't click either mark as addressed or revisit, what happens to things that you don't get to? Does it automatically roll over, or does it live somewhere else?
It's a great question. What will happen the next week when you click in to prepare with Navigator is Navigator will bring it to your attention and say, hey, Nick, there's these 3 things that you didn't triage, you didn't mark them as anything last week. Like, what do you want to do? And it'll give you a chance to go back there. And you can take action then to bring them back to this week's agenda, or to say, actually, we're done with it. Or you can also snooze these. That's a little bit of a hidden feature, but you can snooze a topic kind of indefinitely, and Navigator will check in every couple weeks and say, hey, here's your snoozed items. Any of these relevant now? And it's kind of a nice way to there's often things in running a team where, I know this is important, but I know now is not the week to do it. I still want Navigator to remember it for me, and check back in, down the road on it. So Navigator is not going to drop the ball on topics you didn't address last week, and it's also not going to drop the ball on items that you might want to snooze for later.
That's really cool. I have 2 more questions off the top of my head, and then I'll open it up to some others. But one question is, I know that you guys are positioning yourself to be using some AI to enhance kind of the efficiency of meetings and for efficiently following up. Could you talk a little bit more kind of on what you're building in terms of artificial intelligence to help support people in their meetings?
Yeah, totally. We built a platform in-house that allows us to very quickly and efficiently author and evolve the conversations that Navigator has with the people it supports. And so that platform is kind of the core of where all of our AI efforts are going. We're leveraging a little bit of natural language processing technology in there right now. So, for example, if you add a topic with the title of 10, 20 words, Navigator will recognize that the probably is not a topic title. It's probably actually the context of that topic, and it'll ask some clarified questions to get at that. And so there's a handful of NLP that's in the product right now. There'll be a lot more to come. That field is evolving at a very fast pace, which is really exciting. And then over time, we want to create a more and more customized Navigator experience for each user. So, for example, Navigator conversations, the first time you interact with the robot, it'll be a bit slower in the way that it delivers messages. It'll provide a little bit more context in the information it shares with you. And then over time, as you use the system more and more, it gets to be a lot quicker, and the system becomes a lot more brevity in the interactions, because the 10th week that you're working on a meeting agenda with Navigator, you kind of know how it works, and you don't want to take a lot of time to read and get an understanding of things. So that's another example where AI is really powerful in terms of understanding kind of each user and where they are in the onboarding journey.
Are you guys going to integrate into Zoom at some point, so the meeting recording can go directly into the agenda? You could also get statistics on like the length of time of the meeting, the attendees of the meeting, then back out what the cost of that meeting was?
It's a great question. Yeah, it's something we're definitely look at. We're big Zoom users here at the company as well, and we love the platform. So we'd love to explore integrations there.
Because what a lot of people don't realize is like the cost of some of these meetings. I know that companies like, I think Goldman Sachs for sure, Bridgewater, but they keep track of the cost of a meeting. You know, if you have 5 people on a call for an hour and each person's time is $50 an hour, you know, that's $250 to have that meeting. So that would be something really interesting to analyze.
It's incredibly expensive time, you know, and it's funny. Meetings are some of the most powerful uses of time when you get a bunch of humans in a room together. I mean, it's the most kind of fundamental thing as a species we've done to drive teamwork. So they're very powerful. We're big believers in the transformative power of a good meeting in terms of what it can do for a team. But at the same time, a poorly run meeting is incredibly expensive and such a huge burden on productivity.
Another question for you in terms of your product roadmap. Right now, you only support repeating calendar events, right? Repeat meetings?
That's right.
When are you going to support non-repeat? Because that's obviously like a big use case for meeting an agenda.
Yeah, I don't have a specific date, but it's one of the top things that we're exploring right now of how to do that in a really first class way. It's something we hear hundreds of requests for right now, and we know it'd be powerful for people to be able to offer this to those one-off events on their calendar.
Gotcha. Donna has a question. Once you've added notes, can you go back and add more notes? I think you can edit. I saw an editing feature, right?
That's right. Yeah. Once you've added more notes, let's add a topic. I'll just do a quick demo of this. So we'll brainstorm ideas. Where should we? I'll skip the context for now. So we've got a topic on the agenda, and there is. I'll skip the personal growth one here. We're seeing some blockers. Okay, back to the agenda. So there's a place here to capture meeting notes. This is a real-time collaborative field, so any of the people in the meeting could be contributing to this right now, and it's going to be saving all the time. You can come back afterwards and edit the notes. Navigator will send out a meeting summary to everyone who is involved in the meeting. The default is set for the evening of the day of the meeting. So at 5 o'clock today, it's going to send a summary to everyone who's in this meeting. You can customize that. You can make that the next morning. However you want to set it up. But it's easy after the meeting, go back and add details before that summary goes out. And then after that point, the meeting notes and everything related to the meeting will be archived and saved in the meeting history, so we can see this little drop-down menu offers. It'll show past agendas here. It'll show future agendas, and you can always access those really easily. So hopefully that answers the question. The notes field's pretty powerful, as is the action items field here.
Yep. So regarding action items, this is something that, regardless, I mean, agnostic to your tool, project management software is something that I feel every company should use. So what do you recommend people, what do you recommend people do in terms of best practice interacting with an action items list in your agenda tool versus using, say, Asana for project management? When should they put an action item? Should they copy action items from your tool into Asana? Eventually, is that going to be natively or whatever that? It could be Trello, it could be whatever project management software. But when should something be an action item in an agenda tool versus it be a task in a task management tool?
Yeah, it's a great prompt. We believe that syncing with those systems is core to our kind of role as a service provider, and so
I agree.
On a roadmap, absolutely. For teams that use those systems, like absolutely want to integrate there, and we're not to build a full-blown project management system. That's not the goal here. Our goal is to facilitate great meetings and make sure that they end with clarity and end with clear action. So that's true. the reality is there's a lot of people out there who have nothing, and so using action items in Navigator and having that as the source of truth for those is a great way to go about it. And Navigator makes sure that everyone's reminded of what they've signed up for. It makes sure that if you use the follow-ups module, that those tasks are shown on next week's agenda and they're followed up on. So it's a really good way to manage stuff for those who aren't using something or haven't fully adopted a project management system.
Makes sense. So Lee Brower had a question, and this is kind of what I was guessing too, but until you support non-recurring meetings, do you basically have to, if you want to add an agenda, do you have to basically hack it and say, hey, this one-off meeting is recurring on a yearly basis, and then after the meeting, you basically kill it?
That's a good hack. Yeah, that'll work.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we would love to make that so you don't have to hack it soon.
All right. Well, Scott, I just wanted to thank you so much for your time today. This tool is awesome.
I'm going to comment, if that's all right.
Okay.
Instead of typing it. Scott, I've had an opportunity to kind of look at this just a little bit, and I love what you say when you talk about begin with purpose and end with clarity. I think that hits the nail on the head, because so many of us struggle, I think, enormously with having really effective meetings. We all know we need to make better meetings. We all talk about having better meetings. We maybe have one or two better meetings, and then all of a sudden they fall back in that pattern of being cruddy meetings, and we have them just to have them. And reality is, this, and that is that no meeting is better than a lousy meeting. And so in any event, so I'm very happy to see this. I think it's got a good fit into what work that we do. I'm encouraging you to keep it up. I think it's something that would be very valuable to a lot of people. I think people want, in the worst way, to have better meetings and get sick and tired of lousy meetings. In fact, we're trying to change the name of the word meetings, to make it something that's more meaningful. Because the term meetings just already carries a lot of baggage with it. So collaborative interaction, CIs or something, there's got to be something that's more descriptive of what's actually happening here. So, or purpose.
That's really well said. Thank you for the encouragement, Lee. I appreciate that a lot. We read a book called The Art of Gathering a number of months ago, and the author Priya Parker, you chose that word gathering, I think, very intentionally. It's a almost sacred assemblage of humans, a meeting is, and trying to respect that and treat it with what it's due.
I think purposeful interactions or something, just PIs, come up with abbreviation and own it.
That's nice.
Something like that, because instead of it being a meeting, it's an interaction, a gathering, purposeful gathering. I don't know, that's something to brainstorm on, but if you don't coin it, I will.
I like it.
We'll find it. So thank you very much for your time. This is
my pleasure. It was great chatting with all of you, and thank you for your interest in the tool. We're here for feedback anytime as things come up. This beta period is all about learning from people who are kicking the tires, and we have a shared alignment on that belief of trying to transform meetings into something that's very meaningful.
Great.
Scott, thank you so much for your time today. Where can people, one, find out more info about you and everything that you guys are up to at Navigator? And two, what resources or books do you suggest people go and buy or read so that they can run effective meetings?
Yeah, absolutely. So navigator.com has all of the info, that there's that website. If you click the ops link at the top, there's a whole host of support articles and direct links to get in contact with our team. We've got blog posts going up regularly on new feature releases and things that are coming from the product. So navigator.com and the ops page have everything you need to get tied in there. I'll put a plug in for Priya's book, that Art of Gathering. I think that was a really influential one for our team many months ago, and thinking about how to make these gatherings powerful. That's a great one.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you again for joining. This was awesome.
Great, Nick. You take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Hope you enjoyed this episode of the Leverage Podcast. Leverage is an on-demand outsourcing platform that helps small business owners and entrepreneurs scale their business. We have a team of experts that can help set up marketing and sales funnels, email marketing, podcasts, social media, paid media, and much more. Grow your business overnight with a team of experts you can trust to deliver. Accomplish more. Visit getleverage.com.